Tuesday, June the 2nd, I hope everyone is managing through what has to be a difficult time for most of us to have watched our cities across this country as we protest the loss of life of the person that was murdered in Minneapolis, George Floyd. And I tell you, we in Charlotte have had our own share of these experiences, and I'm hopeful always that at some point we will recover, and not only recover, we'll build on what we've done to make this city a place that everyone can have opportunity. And that's one of the reasons that we do this show, this webinar today is, and every day is about opportunity for everyone. So welcome to the Open for Business Mentorship Series, where the City of Charlotte brings critical information to our small businesses. And I'm Mayor Vi Lyles. You know, for several months, most of our small businesses, actually each of our small businesses, have had to pivot their models in one way or another in response to COVID-19. And today we're going to have 6 panelists joining us. Several industry experts will join us, as well as we hope everyone that's a member of the small business community will listen in and help us have a great discussion on the practical tips and tools for helping your business be successful no matter the climate that we are in. So I want to introduce our panelists this afternoon. Vanessa Matthews is founder and chief resilience officer for Asfalis Advisors, a business resilience training, coaching, and advisory firm. She works around crisis management and business continuity. I think that means when there's a crisis or a disruption, that she helps you plan in advance to make the best of a situation. Sarah Olin is an international certified life coach. She's a leadership coach, and her company is Clutch. That tells you something about that active leadership and coaching style that she has. She works with entrepreneurs and executives in a wide range of industries, and her expertise includes practices of corporate wellness, professional transitions, and work-life balance. We welcome back Damian Johnson as founder of No Grease, one of Charlotte's leading brands in personal hair grooming services. The company has evolved into a popular, profitable, and talent-stable chain of full-service barber shops operations, and it also has a barber school. And Damian's company is a true partner in so many of the efforts around social justice and economic opportunity in our community. So we're glad to always hear from him. Joey Hewell and Scott Lindsay are the duo behind the Nodar Company store and the Outpost Nodar Canteen at Camp North End. In response to the pandemic that we've been going through, Joey and Scott temporarily converted their neighborhood hangout space to a local grocer, allowing their patrons to get anything they needed from right around the corner. I think that's truly showing that we can all learn from them how to pivot. At the end of our discussion, we'll open it up for questions from our viewers. If you're watching on one of the city's social channels, you can ask your question using the comment feature. If you're watching on the Gov channel, please email your questions to Charlotte Supports Small Businesses at charlottenc.gov. So we're going to take a few minutes and let the panelists introduce themselves in a way in response to a question. So I'm going to start with Vanessa. Vanessa, can you talk with us for a few minutes about the basic keys to being resilient? And what do you think is most difficult about being resilient?
Well, good afternoon, and thank you, Mayor, for the question. I hope everybody is doing well. For me, what resilience means from an industry perspective is your ability to be able to weather the storm. And when I think about that, a palm tree comes to mind for me. And if I'm rooted and there's wind speeds and there's water and there's a storm around me, you're rooted within that, and you may bend, you may sway back and forth, but you won't break. And from a company perspective, that's what we try to help our customers to achieve, is for you to be able to weather the storm. And that storm can be civil unrest. It can be a pandemic. It can be a cybersecurity breach. It can be an active shooter. It can be a number of different things that organizations are threatened with every single day. When I think about the people aspect of it, in terms of how you weather the storm, we always talk about crisis leadership and the principles of trust, of communication, of influence, and being able to provide hope.
Thank you very much for that. I have to say that I know Vanessa because she's been doing this for a little while, and I hope that you are having the best of your new life as a newlywed. I'm enjoying it.
Thank you.
So, next, I'm going to ask Sarah Olin a question. How do leaders best engage with their staff during this time? And how do you reassure people that you work with that business can be unpredictable and then still be successful? Sarah?
Yes, thank you. Hi, happy to be here with all of you. I think that the most important thing is communication, and then communicating some more. Being authentic and vulnerable with your team. I think people know when you're lying or hiding things and when you're making things up. And what we've learned through this pandemic and now what we're facing is that we were in the unknown before the pandemic, and the pandemic just shined a big light on, oh, wait, we really don't have power. Things are really, out of our control regardless. So I think as leaders, and what people need when they're afraid is love and reassurance. And I think that's our job as leaders, to be open, to communicate, and to love and reassure our people that we will get through it without painting an unrealistic picture.
Sarah, I think sometimes when we're in the business world with everything going on around us, it's difficult to use the word love. It's an interesting dynamic. And so when you're in that kind of business environment, not very relaxed, I think the idea of assurance is certainly something that's possible. But what's one of the other tools, or what is a tool for assurance and love in this environment right now?
I think that love is being clear. I think that love is being great as a leader and being great with your people, being generous, being understanding. Love looks like a lot of things. It's not just I love you, but it is I love you. It's that too, but it's really about where are you coming from with people, right? Even our leaders are scared, but it's their responsibility to handle their scandal. They need to take care of themselves so that they can show up and be great for their people. So they need to get supported. They need to do the hard work. But I think, creating agreements with your people, being authentic and vulnerable, I think those are all acts of love without hugging or anything.
That's true. I think the way you act, and I love the word generous, the way that you say that is really, really good. Well, we're going to talk to Damien a little bit because No Grease is a service company, basically one that during this pandemic was really like what we would call, I think, close contact business. Being in the service industry where actually the virus was one of the things that people feared most, was that ability for a virus to be active and be passed on because of close contact. And then we had the stay-at-home order, and I'm sure you've all seen the result of that, people with longer hair and often new beards on some of the guys. So there's now a time that the regulations have allowed the service industry, barbershops and nail salons and salons to open. So Damien, you want to talk to us a little bit about how you stayed resilient and what you did to open your doors, and how you knew you were going to what you had to do to be ready?
Uh, Thanks, Mayor Lyles. First of all, uh, Zoom had became our best friend. We had did a lot of Zoom meetings to just really stay connected with all the barbers and our front desk people. So we were having ongoing Zoom meetings. My industry is a big time social connection, human connection type industry. So we started to really feel that because we wasn't around each other. So we did a lot of Zoom meetings and we did a lot of training because of it's absolutely impossible for us to be social distant when dealing with our clients, that we had to retrain ourselves and see how we could protect ourselves and protect the public at the same time. So we did a lot of training, initially, barbers and stylists have to be trained on sanitation and viruses and all those things even before the pandemic happened. So it just reassured that we had to get back on top of that. So communication was a huge thing, and really just seeing how we could go back into the industry and make everyone feel comfortable. We did do some things differently. We did some staggering when we brought the barbers back. We did, every other chair when servicing clients. We wear a mask, we wear gloves. We're constantly cleaning, even more so than ever. So we really just wanted the people to feel like that we thought of their safety first, despite, I would say, the dysfunction of not being connected to people. That's a really that could play on the psyche of people, and we wanted to embrace people again when it came to connecting with one another.
What were some of the comments from your clients that when you first opened and people have been missing the barbershop and not just the part of what you do is providing them a service, but the barbershop atmosphere. So what was it like? What was the first moment, or what was your first thought when you opened up and people were in their chairs and people were waiting for the services?
I've never seen so many grown men not know what to do with themselves when they saw another man. They didn't know if they wanted to hug each other, do the fist bump. It was just a lot of things that, the emotions of just how we humanly connect with one another.
Yeah.
We know that we missed that. So it was a lot of things going on there. But it was joy, a lot of joy.
You give a lot of joy, Damon. We really appreciate that. So Joey and Scott, you made some big changes to your store and your website. As I said, you really did make the pivot work. And so how did you do that? I mean, how did you take a multifaceted space to grocery store and client availability and access to your customers? How did you do that?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having us. We appreciate being able to come on here and hear what everybody else has to say. Scott, you want to?
Sure. We have to look back at how we did it because in the motion of it, it just sort of happened. I think, like a lot of people, we were watching the pandemic evolve in January and February, the different news that was getting here. And I don't think it really struck us until about a week or two before we had to change that we were actually going to have to make a very drastic change. So we didn't have a lot of time to prepare. And I think one of the fortunate things that we have, as we're partners, husbands, but we're also business partners, and we don't see things exactly the same all the time, but we react quickly, and we understood that we had to react quickly if we were going to react at all. And so, we just realized that we had the ability and the resources to find certain amounts of products that would be a grocery, and we also looked at it from the sense that we personally would appreciate that business being close by. We live 2 blocks away from our store, and we didn't want to go to big stores full of people, and we wanted to try and reduce our interactions like we all needed to, and so it was twofold. We realized that there was a need because we felt the need ourselves personally, and we realized that we had a business that we could react to that and fill that void for us and for a lot of our neighbors.
Well, Joey and Scott, I always ask the married couples whether or not this helped the relationship, or what did you learn about each other that made it possible for you to work together and still be a couple that supported each other?
Well, we've been together now for 17 years, and kind of within those 17 years, if you combine all the days that we've spent apart, I think it would literally be less than 2 weeks. And so we've always enjoyed each other's company. We've always worked really closely together. I had a hair salon for a little bit, and he had a real estate company. He still does, but we worked side by side in that as well. He had an office in the salon. And so we've worked together. We're fortunate that we've worked together for so long. And so we've been in different scenarios where, different high pressure moments where we've had to think on our feet. And because of that, I think we've really adapted well to being able to, when something like this happens, to go back and forth and really, talk it out and figure it out. And so, this is, while it's new, having to stay at home and obviously having to keep socially distanced from our friends and family, for us, we spend a lot of time together anyway, and we work together. And so I think it just made us stronger as a married couple. But it also, kind of one of the silver linings of this whole thing is it's really made us be creative and really think about different ways to still provide what we do for the community and for our neighbors, and the way that we do it, which is a very, we like to be very positive and have a very fun approach, very community approach to how we run the business. And so, that just was a challenge to us, and it was a fun, challenge in the sense that we have done the same thing at our store for a few years now, and so this was just a growing opportunity, and together I think we're still growing. We're actually planning on reopening to the public this weekend on a limited basis, and so we're working on that right now. So this transition has been this ongoing thing that every day we just have to talk it out, listen to each other, and figure out the best way to go about it.
Now, let me ask you again. You said you still have several businesses, but what was the original business? Just so that the people that are watching or listening, what was your original business, and tell us what you pivoted to.
So the original business is the No Company store, which is we had a retail shop. We had beer and wine, and snacks, and it was a place that people could just come and hang out with their friends and family. We have
a lot of outdoor seating. We used to have some indoor seating, and it's a gathering place. We're not a restaurant. We don't have waiters and waitresses. So you come get a picnic table and a bottle of wine,
right,
or a food truck, or just hang out with friends.
Okay.
And so that's what we did for a long time, and now we've transitioned into a grocery store. So now what's funny is where there were seats inside are now just these four level shelving systems full of groceries like you would see at a grocery store. And so we've transitioned from what we used to do to now being a curbside or delivery grocery service.
That sounds great. Thank you for sharing some of your personal and professional wisdom with us. Now we're going to take questions that have been coming in from the audience that are watching all of you. So I'm going to start with Sarah. Sarah, how can leaders offer support to those they are not seeing every day in person? How do you help express their value and importance when there's a lot of change and uncertainty? So the first question is, how do you do it when you're not able to actually have the physical interaction? And then, how do you express value and importance during this change and changes and uncertainty? Sarah?
Yeah, I think that the opportunity here is for people to develop even more connection in their relationships, and to really work on the relationship. We say that in any relationship, we're either growing it, killing it, or letting it die slowly. And the opportunities as leaders is that we're always trying to grow our relationships with the people that we're leading, our peers, so that it's always an active conversation. And from relationship, that's where everything starts, right? That's where results happen from. That's where growing in a business happens, and authenticity. And I think that when people are in partnership and have lots of agreements, and lots of strong things happen professionally.
Okay, so let's go to the second one and make sure that we have a response. How do you show value and importance? And I think the way you explained it, generosity, all of those words, and when there's a lot of change and uncertainty, when you perhaps are trying to be authentic, but no, authenticity can be scary sometimes.
It can be, and as leaders, we've got to get over that. It's not a good enough reason not to do it. I'm sorry, it's uncomfortable. Oh, well, lots of things are. That's life, and that's leadership isn't for the faint of heart. I was going to say something else. Can you repeat the question one more time? I feel like I'm making up my own questions and answering them. Just,
No, you're doing much better than that. You're answering but this question was, how do you help express the value and importance to people that you're not seeing every day when there's a lot of change and uncertainty?
Yeah, I think we want to normalize it as leaders. I think we want to be human beings and be in human conversations. And I think that it's an opportunity to decide what kind of leader you're going to be. What are you committed to? If you say you're committed to A, B, and C, do your actions match that? Does your speaking match that? Leaders should be in conversations about their values every day with their teams.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense, that if you're having to recreate something, what was there in the first place. That's a great comment. Thank you. Vanessa, your business revolves around helping clients plan for a crisis. So what was in your own plan that you had to evolve during COVID?
Yeah, that's a good question. My crisis was I didn't expect for the whole world to be in the same crisis at the same time. So,
Yes.
Probably similar to most people, we had clients who have gone out of business. We've had clients who've had to lay off 75% of their workforce. We've had clients that had to shut down their facilities. We've had clients who've had cases of COVID. We've been working on COVID since January. Our clients are too in retail and some larger companies, and so they felt the supply chain disruptions early. So from our business, what I had to keep in mind was their needs are changing, and you need to change with their needs, because it's not about what you want to do, it's about what they need as a client. So for us, we look at resilience from 4 perspectives: people, processes, infrastructure, and technology. From a people perspective, we had to staff up. So the beautiful thing is we're a crisis management company, and it seems like every day or every week there's a new crisis.
Yes.
And so our team is having to ramp up, which has been a little bit different than how we're historically structured. From a process perspective, the needs of the clients have changed. So now, prior to COVID, we were much more of a consulting advisory arm. Now we're transitioning more into a coaching, training, and advisory company where people are coming to us to provide them those skills. Many small businesses do not have the proper mitigations and controls in place to properly manage risk. And so we're seeing that that's a need there. From an infrastructure perspective, we've had to put the proper things in place to make sure that we can manage everything that's coming our way. And then, of course, from a technology standpoint, we had to pivot like everybody else and think of how do we serve our clients in a virtual environment. So every piece of our business has absolutely changed.
Well, I think this is an interesting topic because I think the economy was going very well. Unemployment was 3%. And I'd like to hear your advice to small businesses that were doing so great, and that day that it happened, it just happened. And so what was the first thing that you said to them when they called and said, I need help?
Yeah, so I think the story is important. As Flawless Advisors, COVID-19 was before 2020. So I think it's first being able to level set with people and being able to understand and be empathetic. I know exactly what it's like to go over 14 months with no revenue while planning a wedding. I know exactly what it's like to have no clients. I know exactly what it's like to have to lay off my entire team. And I know exactly what it's like to lose my hope and my faith in the process of running a business. But more importantly, I know what it's like to have to pull out of you what you didn't think that you had inside at the most troubling time. I think what everybody has that I didn't have is everybody gets to go through this together. I went through my pre-COVID by myself. So while everyone was thriving and business was fine, I was crumbling to pieces and trying to find what I had inside of me and in my network. So I think that's the first thing, is recognize that this is happening and that you have to pivot, you have to change. I had to change our business model coming out of what we went through, but I think it's important that we don't keep these stories to ourselves. Share that story, because now somebody else can say, oh, well, you've been through it. Yes, so I know exactly what it takes to get through it, which is why we're in the business of resilience.
That's a great story. Thanks for sharing something that's so personal. We really appreciate that. So Damien and Scott and Joey, what resources, now that everybody is getting to do some reopening, what resources did you have to use to reopen your establishment? So you want to start, Damien, you want to start talking about, I think you talked a little bit about training and sanitation, and I've heard you talk about the social need of people that come to barbershops and salons. So do you have some things that you would say, here are the 3 things that I pulled on or came out most importantly to reopen? Damien?
3 things. Definitely, we started with our leadership first. We really wanted to get all our leaders to understand that if there ever was a time to lead, it was a time to lead right now. And it was, for those who are in leadership role, it is one of the most uncomfortable places you could kind of live in. And this was an opportunity to, if you wanted to put your big boy pants on, this was the time to do it. Because we literally was training people on how to encourage, how to build not only, your coworkers, but your family. Because we knew that, individuals were going through their own personal situations at the time when the pandemic started to happen. And then we had to move into the whole, because we have so many independent contractors, we had to move into resources. How could we find each other resources? And we were, we talking about, I've never been on unemployment in almost 30 years. I didn't even know what to do because I had never been on unemployment. And my barbers, as independent contractors and 1099, they were searching and scrambling how to get resources. So we was all helping each other out one way or the other, getting information from, banks, from other businesses. So it was just everyone pulling up their pants and going to work. I mean, it was a lot of tear-jerking moments, but it was a lot of man-up moments too. So it was in the fire, and since then we got some resources through the PPP, and we got those doors open. We provided resources for our barbers, and everyone is on the street and they're towards their goals right now.
One of the things that I've heard most is that when this crisis happened, you may have had a tax accountant as a small business owner, but now you needed a lawyer and you needed a banker. And I guess, Scott and Joey, tell us a little bit about how you were able to provide resources. Did you have someone that helped with your taxes? Did you have a lawyer? Do you have a banker that when you called them up, they knew your name?
So we don't keep our own books. We do. We have an accountant. He's with a firm, but he's a very personal service accountant. And so as recently as last evening, but probably every 3 or 4 days throughout this, we've either been in touch through email or asking him questions. We applied for a lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
We applied for PPP loans, which we did get only a week or so ago, and we needed his advice on the proper way to use those funds to where we're doing what we should with them. We talked to him about our various employees and what we would need to keep up with them. We had to, I don't know if the proper term is layoff, furlough, whatever it is, but we had to let pretty much almost everyone go. And so we needed a lot of advice. And then, I applied early for us for a couple SBA loans and didn't hear anything. And then a friend on Facebook was actually posting that his salon, Cirrus Salon, had received PPP funds, and he was just telling everybody, if you are having trouble with this, send me a message. I'll give you all my contacts. And so a number of people who are going through the kind of things that all of us have been going through sort of shared that information among each other because, as Damien had mentioned, never dealing with unemployment. I've never dealt with an employee who filed for unemployment. So when I got letters from the state asking me to go online and provide some information, I didn't have a clue what any of that meant. And so, you have to learn a lot of things fast and quickly, and it's obviously the kind of things you want to get right at the very beginning.
So we've been asked this question for everyone, and I think this is really important because people are still trying to figure out things. So if you could, I'm just going to start with Scott and Joey. If you could tell us what loan and grant programs have you applied for?
Sure. We applied for PPP, which is the Paycheck Protection Program, and we applied through the SBA directly for the Economic Disaster Relief Funds. So the PPP is forgivable with certain aspects of what you do with it, if it's for payroll, for rent, for utilities, things like that. The emergency disaster loan, from my lesson from the accountant yesterday afternoon, is just a loan with a good term and a good interest rate to work we're having to spend a considerable amount of money literally right now. We're in the midst of reshaping our patios and stuff. And so that loan provided us some money that didn't have to be payroll. It didn't have to be this. It's money to help your business get through this. And so those are the two, the emergency disaster relief and the PPP.
Okay, Damien, did you apply for any loans or grants?
Yeah, so we did apply for the PPP, and we did receive that one. Just like Joy and them, we are reaching out for the disaster loan because literally we were in the process of expanding 2 more locations. So everything just stopped, and leases have been signed for those locations already. So thank God, me and the banker had been talking in depth for a long time. So when everything happened, he hurried the process for the PPP, and now we're working on the disaster loan.
Okay. Vanessa, what about you? Did you apply for grants or loans?
Yes, we're about 5 in total. We did receive the PPP loan similar to everybody else. I think it's obviously important to have your infrastructure in place ahead of time from a financial perspective. And then we also have applied for grants. So yes, but I would also say that my COVID-19 plan was not grants and loans.
Okay.
So there's a bigger strategy outside of the having a grant and having a loan is not going to solve this problem any more than hand sanitizer and mask is. And so I think it's important for businesses to think beyond just the financials.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, did you apply for any loans? You're a sole proprietor, I'm assuming, and so I wondered if you applied for any grants or loans.
I actually have a few businesses, and I did with one.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Mm-hmm. So why don't we go ahead and continue. Sarah, in a crisis, it can be easy to fall into negativity. How can people break into positivity and shift their mindsets? I don't know if you have several hours for that. I could use some help in that.
Yeah.
I think if you could give us some top of the mind thoughts.
For sure. It's a really easy, normal thing, and it's a way that people connect really easily is around complaints and things like that. But the first step in transforming anything is awareness. So first you've got to actually have the awareness or the understanding of what's happening, that, oh, I have this negative mindset, or my speaking is really negative, my attitude. So that's the first step, right? The awareness. And the second step is conscious action. So awareness is the booby prize. Without action, it doesn't really matter, right? You've got to have the awareness and then take action to see change. And part of it is realizing that everything, for the most part, is a lens or a filter or a narrative. I moved to Charlotte from Brooklyn 8 years ago, and I love Charlotte. I think it's the best. I think the people are great. I think the food is great. Very civilized. I mean, wonderful city, great weather, no problems. After being in
Just
New York.
a few I can tell you about, but that's okay.
And that's the thing, right? I did get the memo on that. There are definitely a few. And I have another girlfriend from Brooklyn who moved here a year before I did, and she thinks Charlotte is meh. The city is meh, the food, the people, not enough Jews. There's a lot of problems for her, right? Mm-hmm. That's her interpretation. So I'm not right and she's not right. Everything is just our interpretation. Mm-hmm. And to your point, there are certain facts, right? And our filters create our experience. So if you're looking for problems or cracks in the sidewalk, you're going to find them. If you're looking for what's great and what's working and for things to be good, you'll find that too, right? It's never really one or the other. It's both, right? It's everything.
Okay, we have two questions, and I'm going to start with Vanessa because they're both about what the future is doing and how we work towards the future. So Vanessa, the question that has come in over from one of the listeners is that, do you think more investors, insurance companies, and banks are going to require continuity plans from small businesses? And if you don't have a plan, is there still time to do one? And what is really a resilient plan composed of? What does it require? Vanessa,
Yeah.
I know that's a lot, but people need to hear. So the first question is, do you think it's going to be required from small businesses? And is it still time to make one up? And then what really are the components of a resiliency plan for small businesses?
Yeah. So when I take a step back, so my background is in Homeland Security and Emergency Management. I used to work for the Department of Homeland Security prior to my private sector life. And most legislation that we see purely from a emergency management perspective happens only after disasters, right? So everything, people have to die. We have to lose a lot of money. We have to lose a lot of buildings before we decide to put policy in place from a purely federal perspective. So I say that to say, from a government perspective, I really can't tell you, if that will be a requirement. I've seen changes from a procurement standpoint over the past 6 to 8 weeks on some of the federal departments. Now, as far as private sector is concerned, especially those that are regulated, I think that there will be changes because many businesses, you can't run a business without people. I don't care who you are. And your supply chain is ran on people. And so I do expect to see changes. I've definitely heard private businesses talk about, most of the larger ones, that their small business supply chain and the middle market, those, $20 million to $1 billion size companies just did not have the proper risk mitigation, crisis preparedness infrastructure in place. So the first thing is, yes, I do think that there will be change. But the second thing that I'll say is, why should that change drive what you do? As a business owner, you are making decisions that impact someone's college tuition. It is your responsibility. I don't care what business you're in. You're not you are susceptible to threats that impact your operation. And so if you're a one-man shop at home, if you are running a daycare facility, or whether you're running a Harris Teeter, you have the responsibility for your people and for the public to do what's right for your business. Threats are happening around you every single day. You need to identify them, you need to analyze them, and you need to manage it. And manage it means, what am I going to do about it now that I'm aware of it, right? That's just like this protest. Now that everybody is clearly up under the rock, what are you going to do about it now? How do you make it actionable? And so in terms of what goes into resiliency, so again, resiliency is about you being able to weather the storm. If I lose my people, my technology, or my assets, if I lose 40% of that, what are you going to do to continue to do business? What I hope COVID has taught us, well, number one, it's a lot of things, but one thing that I learned is that we're all so connected. When the barbershop closes, that impacts my husband. He has dreads, he has facial hair. My husband is like, look, I can't talk to my CEO like this. It affects me. You know, I'm sitting here like, I haven't had my nails done. I'm like, I'm hoping he stays married. Like, you know, we're all impacted. We're all connected. And so there's a ripple effect when there's disruption to business. And business, whether it's a pandemic, whether it's a protest, whether it's a cybersecurity incident, the number one focal point is always people. And so you have to put people first. And yes, I hope I answered the question, Mayor.
You did. You've been very wise, and you've done it with a sense of humor, and that makes a big difference. And the hubby has to get in line for that beard trim. So, all right, Joey and Scott, the folks that are on this webinar want to know if you would tell us about how you coordinated with other small local small businesses, and are you incorporating local products in your offerings in your new venture?
Yes. Yes, we are incorporating some local ingredients and products within our store. Kind of one of the situations that happened when everybody had the stay-at-home order was that a lot of the local farmers and producers kind of got the rug swept out of from up under them, just like everybody else did. And they were used to, supplying meats and produce and all this to different restaurants around Charlotte, the South Park, and all these different areas. And so one of the ways that we've tried to help them is to bring their products in. So, I mean, obviously we're not doing as much as they would if they were selling to all the various restaurants around Charlotte, but we tried to incorporate a lot of the local farmers and producers to at least keep them having goods sold.
One of the restaurants that had just opened up here in the neighborhood, that the chef has been all around Charlotte, gave us we didn't have anybody to supply us with proteins, meats, beef, pork, chicken. And so he gave us the number of his supplier, who no longer had his restaurant to supply, but had all this things coming through the pipeline that had already been in production. And so he shared that number with us. And so that became one of our suppliers. And that's just one way his business, he actually reached out to us and said, I've got this guy, I heard you're going to start selling my groceries. He doesn't know where to sell his product.
Yeah.
I think that's so important to learn that there's a network of people that everyone was just didn't know what to quite do, but if by reaching out, that network will be strong, and it'll be stronger because I expect we'll have other disasters that will take place, and now you know who to call and how to work together. So it's really an important thing. Damien, I'm going to come to you. This is a question about, you have shops in other states. I believe that one of those states reopened sooner than the stores in North Carolina and your shops in North Carolina. So what lessons did you learn from the openings of your earlier shops that helped you prepare for when you could open the shop in Charlotte?
Well, Georgia was extremely early in its opening. We waited a little while longer than when it initially opened up, but what we learned was that the people really did take a responsible role in staying safe and doing the social distancing. Even though the stores was open, I mean, people really, with the masks, the gloves, the 6 feet apart, they really did take the initiative to really demonstrate that they wanted to protect not only themselves, but everyone else. So we learned a lot that people did take responsibility, and even South Carolina opened up also a little earlier than Charlotte. So we had a shop in Georgia, we have one in South Carolina, and again, the people did really take some initiative without us even saying anything. So we were very, very happy with the people's response.
Damien, can you tell us, did you have inspectors, or how did you get the information about what was going to be required? And could you give any ideas of how to assure that you're following the rules to other people that have had to adjust because of COVID-19?
So barbershops and barbers and stylists, we have a state board that's kind of over us. So they are giving us information, letting us know what are the proper steps that we should be taking. And so by the time the governors released that mandate and gave those rules, we were ahead of the curve. Our rules had superseded the governor's rules.
So a lot of small businesses have associations and membership organizations. I don't know if you had one, but did they also help with the rules and understanding them?
Yep. So we had a local here in Charlotte of barbers, owners, just discussing how we wanted to re-enter the workforce. And we all came up with the proper ways to kind of do business. So it was definitely a group effort from everyone.
Again, I want to encourage everyone, after listening to Joey and Scott and Damien, Charlotte Open for Business is our website on the city's page, and there are ways to connect. And furthermore, the city is working to have these relationships grow and be stronger with is it biz to biz, B2B, business to business? So we hope that Damien and Joey and Vanessa and Scott, all of you will at some point remember that there are people that need your help and your guidance and wisdom. So thank you so much. So Sarah and Vanessa, you've talked about being new business owners, and so for looking at this, for new business owners who have just opened prior to COVID and are navigating with little experience, what are some of the best practices that they can follow? So they're asking both from a coaching perspective and a resiliency perspective. So Sarah, do you want to start?
Sure. I think, Vanessa, you're likely more equipped to answer this question, but from a coaching perspective, we look at, what's the commitment? What is it that you want to create? And then who do you need to be and do to make it happen? And I think this applies to both times of feast and times of famine during hardships and breakdowns. But my work is a lot about having people get support around them so that everything is not just up to the individual, the leader, or the business owner, that they actually have support structures around them as they grow. And I think that's one of the smartest things that you can do is get supported, whether it's in a peer organization or, work like I do or Vanessa. I think that's really important.
Okay, thank you. Vanessa? So, you've opened and the COVID happens and you're trying to figure it out. What are some of the best practices that you would suggest?
So I definitely think Sarah hit it on the head in terms of having a support system. That is absolutely critical because every business has its peaks and its valleys. No matter what you look like, it will come. Outside of that, there's two things I would say is one, and I think Stephen Covey said this, but keep the main thing the main thing. Like, what's that thing that you do that no one else can do better than you? And you stay true to that thing. Like, you have to be known for something. And then the second thing I would say is the world is changing. Consumers' behaviors are changing. How they buy is changing. What they buy is changing. Where they buy is changing. And those are all very important things to understand as you become a business owner, because there's an investment to being in business. So be mindful of the needs of your clients and what their constraints are, because you have to be profitable at the end of the day.
Okay, we've got a few more questions that I'm going to, before we have our wrap-up questions. So, Joey and Scott, Note Our Company store is really like having a community living room. What a compliment. How do you plan on bringing people back together?
Well, we've decided, we've talked about this extensively over the past few months. We've tried to just, for us, create ways to allow people to be together, but at a certain distance. And so one of the things that we've done is the build out. We have a ton of outdoor seating. Our interior is pretty small, and so we decided just to keep that open with no seating on the inside. And so as far as our outdoor patios go, we've completely rebuilt them. We used to have a bunch of picnic tables, metal chairs, things that you could move around, things that as your friends or family showed up, you could kind of be together and move those areas around to create whatever space you needed.
Everything you cannot do now.
Everything you can't do now, and that was, one of the kind of the craziest parts for us is everything that we had to tell people after COVID is exactly what we encouraged beforehand. Bringing community together and getting to know your neighbors and hanging out with different people. And now for our patios, we've done these huge built-ins, and so there are no more chairs that you can move around. So the goal with that is so that people, can sit in their area. They can't push the tables around, and it's hopefully a way for us not to have to be the fun police, where we have to walk around and tell people to constantly move away from each other. We're fortunate that we live in a neighborhood in the city that seems to understand that this is an important issue and that people need to take it seriously. And so at this point, kind of our biggest goal is to provide a space that people can still be together at a safe distance. And so building it out, putting planters in certain spots, just kind of making the space feel open and inviting still, but in a way that is socially distant.
And one thing, when we started hearing about phase 1 and phase 2 and what those would start to mean and the requirements of restaurants with gathering places and how you have to have people distant, one of the things, that's just one example throughout this, when we first heard it, it was extremely stressful. It was a conversation that didn't leave us for a couple of days trying to figure out how to do it. And then when we determined what we needed to do, we actually realized, well, let's make this the best, let's make it the best it can be. And so we go into it with the genuine attitude, like, okay, here's our chance to redo our patio. What would our dream scenario be? We've been given a little bit of money to do some of this with. And instead of going into it mopey, thinking, oh, we created this over a couple of years and it was working well, instead of thinking, it sucks that we now have to change this, we're like, okay, let's go. Let's make this the best experience we can, so when people come out to this new environment, it's going to be different, and some people may miss what they had, but it's, in my opinion, we went and bought all the flowers today, it's going to be beautiful. And so take it, we've made a lot of lemonade in the last 3 months.
We made a lot of lemonade. And I will say, Vanessa, I think you stated it perfectly when you said that, it's focused on what you do at this time. This is not a time, I feel like, to just start throwing things at the walls. Focus on what it is that you do and just make it better and move around what we have to do right now, which is socially distant. What we do is gather people. And so that's really difficult for us, but I think that's great advice, is to know what you do and do it better than anybody else. And we do outdoor patio space, and hopefully it'll be a safe space for everyone to still come out and enjoy a beverage.
Well, there are lots of questions that are not going to get answers today, and that's a very good thing. But I'm going to ask, before we leave your screen, I'm going to ask our closing question. What is your go-to activity for inspiration when the challenge looks particularly hard or daunting?
Cooking.
Cooking, okay.
We do a lot of cooking anyway. We normally at the store, when we can have people together, we do what we call Sunday Fun Day free lunch, where we cook. Scott and I both cook every Sunday during the spring and summer. We provide food for everybody, and again, it's a community effort. We love to cook, and so it's one of those ways of, us being able to try out new recipes. We get to interact with our friends. Now we can't do that, at least for the time being, and so that's what I do. If I start feeling too much pressure, I just need to go in the kitchen and make something and take my mind off of it.
Well, when all of this pandemic is over, I'm going to wait for my invitation. All right.
You are already invited.
Thank you. Vanessa, what about you? What is your go-to activity for inspiration?
Yeah, so Joey, my husband's a chef, so we're going to have to come hang out at your house.
Sounds like a cook-off to me. Who's going to be Bobby Flay?
We cook a lot, but I'm a woman of faith first, and the first thing I do is I pray, even when I don't want to talk to God. The second thing I do is I keep a blessings jar, and I write down 5 things every day that I'm grateful for. And when stuff hits the fan and when I'm ready to just blow it up, I pull into my blessings jar and I pull out those things that I'm grateful for. And I've been able to see that in the most trying times, I've been most grateful for oxygen, for water, for a warm bed, because at the end of the day, there is always somebody that has it worse than me. And so those are the things I just try to keep into perspective.
That is so interesting, Vanessa. I have a daughter who's just married, and they keep that same jar. So that works both professionally and personally, I expect. Okay. So, Sarah, what is your go-to activity?
So my go-to activity is meditation. Before I moved to Charlotte, I had a business in New York called Relax Already. And I brought meditation programs into companies all over Manhattan. And meditation and prayer are best friends, first cousins. So they really go hand in hand. But meditation, I couldn't survive without it. Yeah.
Wow, that's really good. Was it very difficult, or do you find meditation in Charlotte different than Manhattan?
Well, my gateway to meditation was actually through yoga, and a particular form of yoga called Kundalini, where there's a lot of meditation and chanting, and I had never done any other type, so I didn't know that it was the weird one, not the hot body gymnastics yoga. It was the chanty, weird one with turbans and all that. So it's the chanting, it's the music. It really helps you focus, I think, easier than a silent meditation, which a lot of people find really challenging.
Wow. Thank you. I did not know that. So I learned something new today. All right, Damien. Damien, you got to have a go-to activity.
Oh yeah. I'm an artist by the core of me is an artist. So from drawing to writing poetry, once my mind gets to a place of tranquil, I can see so many different things, and I'm going to try to bring those things into fruition. So meditation is a part of my creative side of drawing art. But it's art. Hair cutting has been an art to me my whole life. So if I'm not cutting hair, I'm trying to think of another way to create.
Have you had an exhibition yet?
Oh yeah, now me and my brother thinking about opening up a art gallery now. So you guys better watch out for the No Grease Art Gallery.
Oh, that sounds exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing your work. We've come to the end of today's series. It's about mentorship, but I want to say to each of you, I think this was a fabulous program, and I think that you made it fabulous because not only did you share what it takes to be successful at work, you've been willing to share what makes you successful as a person, and we need more of that understanding because those things work hand in hand. So we hope that everyone that listens and sees this webinar, especially in our small business community, that you've enjoyed them, that we've been bringing something to you, a great experience in this ever-changing climate that these times have brought to us. The series will continue every Tuesday at 1 p.m. We'll be back next week, and with our topic, Facing Unemployment During Recovery. I hope that we'll be able to help people understand and do that. So thank you again for being such a great panel. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you soon.